Welcome to JackHorney.com show.
Right, this is going to be a very quick one. It's Why Labour Lost, Part 2. And it's a very simple one. The reason Labour lost is because only, and I'll repeat this, only the middle class want socialism. This is something that they don't understand. They presume the working class want socialism. I mean, a lot of it's simply because they guess what the working class want. They have zero idea because they're not made up of, the Labour is a middle class party, and they presume they are the ones that should basically help the stupid working class. That's their opinion, and they see the working class as like a pet project. I'll give you an example. I had a text today from, I presume she's a nice lady. I'm not having a go at her, so I'm not going to post her name or anything. And it was a simple one. And she generally sent this, and I don't think she fully understood what she sent. She said, blah, blah, blah. I would say, I would say most other carbon support. I was talking about, I think I was saying that left wingers look down on people. So I think her response was, I'd say most other carbon spotters don't. We generally wanted to help people. Now, notice that. We generally wanted to help people, which is what they want. They want to help. It's like, if you imagine it, Christians are into this quite a lot, going out and helping people. That's the sort of aim. They don't feel they're successful unless they're sort of helping others. And I think this is how a lot of the left wingers are. They're sort of, Labour is basically Christianity for them, and they feel that it is their duty to go forth and help others. Now, the trouble is that they've got it in their heads that they know what's best for people, and in fact, they think they know what's going on. Now, one of the examples, and this is one of the things I found shocking, is that for the last few weeks, in fact, we're hearing it today, all we're hearing is how the left, and I'm seeing it over and over, are putting out this message that everyone's living in poverty. Where? Where are these poor people you keep going on about? I mean, the impression I get is that every council estate should have people desperate for food. Well, I'm on the council estate. I don't see anyone poor. I see people who don't work, but they've got cars, TVs, brand new TVs, and they're doing okay. They're doing actually really well. I actually haven't seen anyone like this starving poor person that they keep quoting. Now, one of the things that's interesting is when they quote, there's so many children under the poverty line. Now, you think that's shocking, but then I think the standard definition of poverty is people who earn less than 20k. I could be wrong on that. I'll look it up. I listened on it. It was on a TV show. I think it was the BBC interviewing somebody. So I might be wrong on this. So if I am, I don't like to put out facts without. I like to back things up, and this is one that I have to look up. So forgive me. So take that with a bit of salt. I might be completely wrong on that. So don't quote me on that. But when we're talking about poverty, there seems to be a falsehood given out, and it's almost as if none of these people have actually ever met these poor. They're just telling each other that there's this poverty. In fact, I was watching. There's that rather. I don't think he's particularly talented. There's a chap on YouTube, but I think last year or a year before, he did this sausage song for Christmas, and he gives the money to. I was listening. I think he gives it to charity or something. Fair enough, good on him. But it clearly sounds very left wing, and it comes across as rather well off. I mean, I presume he's earning a hell of a lot of money on YouTube. Fine, if he gives all his money to charity, that's up to him. But it was having a go at, I think, Chris Moyles on the one latest YouTube thing, and I thought it was just a joke thing. And he was going on and on about how he comes across as being the saviour of the poor. And I think that's unfortunately how a lot of people on the left see themselves. They see themselves as saviours. And if anyone interferes with that belief, they don't understand it, because they see themselves as Jesus-like, basically. They see themselves as so pure, so perfect, that one should never criticise or say anything, because they're the ones who are doing so much good. And yet, as I say, I go around and I haven't seen these poor. I'm not sure where they exist. I'm in a town. I'm happy if anyone wants to tell me where these poor are all starving. I mean, it sounds like, well, when we're describing them, we're being described, these children, as starving. Now, perhaps there are some. And generally, how do they get in that position? Because when most people who have got children, even one to several, they generally get housing and whatnot, and they seem to get the benefits. Now, I find it odd that some we're claiming are starving while others in the same position are not. I mean, that doesn't make sense. One presumes they're all getting the same amount of benefits, so it doesn't make sense. I mean, this is a bit confusing. Now, I'm not saying that people have been screwed over, because they have. I mean, I've said this from the start, that people have lost their benefits, especially on a temporary basis. So just because they might have been a few minutes late to an interview or something, and I think or the mail's got lost or something. I mean, I've known people do it. I've helped them out. And I think, I mean, they could be lying to me. Maybe they did ignore the letters. You know what I mean? They might have been messing the system up, but I think they were generally telling the truth. But, I'm a person who, I'll give people, they might be lying. I'm not going to say just because they've told me it's all fact. But the problem is that, like I say, I think some girl who's got no car, no transport, in the middle of nowhere in a flat, who's got a kid or two, will probably struggle to get around. And I think if you take her benefits off, it's wrong. Unless she's genuinely messing the system up, and some people do. I'm not saying. I mean, this is the reality. I do say it. I think that just some people have been treated badly. But this position that we've been told that everyone's starving, on the basis, because if we're being told that people are starving who are getting the benefits, well, I'm not sure that's true. I also would question, do the parents spend the money on the food, or are they going out spending? Because I have, ages ago, and it is going back about 20 years, I did a sales job, going door to door. It was gas and electric. And most of the time I'd stick on council estates because I knew people was in. And they were usually more friendly. Well, if you went to the big houses, it'd take you half an hour go from one house to another. Well, at least council estates, you could just go one house to another very quickly. Anyway, now most of the time everyone was decent, but once, and this is within, the only time I ever experienced it was once in maybe 2 years. So you can see how rare it is. I went to one house, and the guy, he we sat in there, and there was a few kids there, and he said, I think he had 8 kids. And I was going through it all, saying, you can save money and blah, blah, blah. And he says, I don't give a damn about my kids. He says, I spend it all on beer at the pub. Now, again, you might have been trying to say that as a joke. I don't know. When I was there, I honestly don't know if this guy was trying to pull my leg or he was genuine. It sounded genuine, but he could have just been just pulling my leg. It might have been his dark sense of humour. Anyway, the other thing I'd like to, because it amused me, because I think George Galloway, I'm just going to read it out because I posted. So I'm reading off my phone again. Let me just bring it up, folks. I've noticed George Galloway seems to set up a new political party every other day, but he's got one called the WorkersPartyGB. I'll post a little tweet I made because I was mocking it, because basically one wonders how many people are actually working class in this party. I suspect everyone who joins will be middle class, looking down the nose at the working class and saying what they think the working class want. And again, you see, this is what the problem is, and this is what I always say. if these people genuinely did speak to the working classes and they knew them and they were part of them, they wouldn't be promoting socialism. It's not wanted. But the problem is they're so egotistical and so arrogant that they think everybody who's working class wants this socialism. They're convinced of it, and they don't. They think that all people want to do is live in a sort of socialist system. Now, let's put it this way. We live in a different decade or a different age to what we did many years ago. I mean, one of the things I'll say is that, I use the word working class for simplicity, but in reality, the working class doesn't exist. It's a lower middle class now. And why do I say this? Well, when I was at university, we had a definition in sociology of working class. Middle class. Now, the definition we were given was you were middle class if you had a degree, you went abroad on holiday, and you owned your own home. That was, I think there was a few other things, but I actually would add to that, because to me, you're not working class in the same old fashion as you were years ago. Years ago, if you went for a job, you'd be forced to stay unless you could get out that firm for life, because you'd be trained up. So, for instance, if you worked for a car manufacturer, you'd be highly trained. People, unlike now where you can buy nuts and bolts just of the press of a button, in those days, a lot was actually handmade. If you ever watch films YouTube, it's fascinating to see. Parts that would be just run off now without even thinking about it. You could order from any firm and have it there next day. These were handmade on a lathe, which must have been time consuming, but also took people highly skilled. Now, you once you've learned these skills, such as a coal miner anywhere, it's hard to then, especially in those days, to go from one firm to another because you were so heavily skilled and you had no skills for anything else. This meant you were trapped at work, and it also meant that employees could basically abuse their staff because they knew they couldn't really leave. And we also had in this situation where managers, I don't think, were particularly intelligent, quite honestly. If you compare them, if you even just compare just from the 60s to now, you have a highly educated management workforce today. While in the past, you got the impression that if they just had a high rank in the army or something, that was sufficient. Or if they were just simply middle class, that was sufficient. It's a whole new ball game today. Today, most people don't stay in the same firm. They can switch. They go from, one day they might be a teacher, and next week they might run their own business, and then the week after they might sell that business for a few million and whatever. You hear that. This isn't even uncommon. You're shocked if you hear somebody leave maybe teach and become an accountant or something, or vice versa, accountant becoming a teacher. These things happen. It also means that you don't really need unions in the same way, because unions really, they had a power force where they had to look after people because they knew they knew the managers could screw them over. Today, you don't need the unions because if you don't like your job, you quit. That's it. You can just move from one job to another. And some people say, "Oh, you're being a bit simplistic," but it's not. It is simplistic. It's very simplistic. People do that, and you see this. And what happens is, because we live in one of the advantages of a capitalist society is, but when I talk about capitalism, for me, it's about the what would I call it? The ability to, free movement and things like that. The in the supermarket, let's give an example. Say supermarket A takes staff on and trains them, but it pays them terribly. Right? People don't need a union to defend them. What they'll do is the supermarket B, who pays better, will cream off the best staff. The ones that work hard and whatever, they will take those staff, and supermarket B will do really well because they'll have staff that are happy and they'll treat the customers well. and people will go to supermarket B. Supermarket A eventually collapses, and the staff at supermarket A will work elsewhere. The remaining staff. That's how things work today. You can see that all the time. A holiday firm collapsed recently, and another firm simply creamed off all the staff. That was it. People move very easily. That's the power. Now, the trouble with the unions is the only power base they've really got now is where they think they can blackmail the country. So where you've got, say, the trains, they feel they've got the power because they can think if you pull everyone out on strike, you screw up the country. Now, all that's going to happen is eventually all the trains will become fully automatic. I mean, the argument is that the London Underground could be automatic tomorrow. In reality, I think the technology's there. So the unions eventually destroy jobs, and that's what we always see. The temporary help out, but eventually what happens is the management just goes sod it. I mean, you can't really. You see, these days, a manufacturing firm can't pull the staff out. A union can't pull the staff out because, in reality, if you were making nuts and bolts in the UK and you thought, oh, well, let's go on strike, what does that management do? They don't go panic and go, oh, no, we're going to be stuffed. They just literally press a button, and within 10 minutes they've made an order to a Chinese manufacturing firm, and within half an hour they've probably got the order on a boat being delivered to the UK, half the price, and none of them staff will ever get a job again. And this is the reality. People simply move from one job to another. So if people are happy, they move. You don't need unions in the same way. If any, I mean, and also, by the way, one of the things that you might not know if you're in the UK is that unions are different in the UK to abroad. In Germany, and I think this applies to virtually every other country, union officials have to be highly educated. I think I might be wrong on this, but in Germany, the system there is union reps have to have a master's degree in business, so they know what they're talking about. So when they sit on the boards, they actually are helping out. They're not just there going, destroying the company. Well, in the UK, I mean, I amuse myself listening to union reps. My favourite one is that woman who just nods her head like a weirdo, who bangs on, pretends that she's worth, I think she's on £200,000 or £300,000. I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of money she's on. But she's convinced everyone she's worth. I mean, I wouldn't give her that. I don't think she's worth £2. But, you know, she's the one who goes around nodding her head and she thinks she's self-important, like a lot of the left-wingers. I mean, oh, by the way, I mean, this is another sign now. If you ever speak to anybody on the left, you know, they're all into high taxes for paying for things. Well, ask them how much they forked out. Because you've got to remember that nobody in this country is stopped from paying more tax. So ask them, how much extra tax have they paid? You know, you find none of them have paid any extra. I mean, this is what they hate me on Twitter, because I always ask them. I mean, the other thing is they'll bang on about how everybody who doesn't vote Labour are evil and making everyone homeless. So ask them how many people they've taken into the house. It's funny that none of them do. They all have an excuse. I've had one day. Oh, it was fun. I sat there chatting to a few people on Twitter, and God, the excuses they've got. They said, "Well, I would do, but at the moment, unfortunately, I'm in moving mode or something." I mean, they all had the excuses because in reality, they're just keyboard warriors. They just sit there typing away, feeling smug, thinking, look at me, everybody, I'm such a nice person because I'm typing this drivel. But they don't do anything. It's just keyboard warrior skills. It's meaningless. They're no better than, you know, the Conservative voters or whatever they keep calling evil scum. There's zero difference. They're doing no better. You know, you can be a Labour support, but it doesn't make you a nice person. I mean, especially when you're slagging everyone off and calling them. I mean, I was going on today. Good grief. You know, they still don't learn. They're calling everyone bigots and stuff who didn't vote Labour. Everyone's scum of the earth. And they're even talking that, some of them saying, working out how to stop people voting because they're not the correct voters. I mean, it's ridiculous. But anyway, that's I've gone on more than I thought, but this is a simple one. I'll repeat. Socialism is something a certain middle class want. It's not. I've never seen it in my life. I've never met anyone working class who wants socialism ever. Never. Because they don't want it. They don't need it. And I don't think anyone middle class wants. I don't think anyone working class actually wants the middle class speaking for them. I know these people. I mean, like I said, she said we want to help. It's as if these people think the working class are too stupid, too moronic to think for themselves. They're not. It's up to them. If they screw up, that's their decision. That is literally their decision. You're not there to stop them from screwing up. If people want to screw up their lives, as long as they've made the decisions and they've been informed, it's up to them. That's why, at the end of the day, I've always said it, I'm a Remainer in this EU thing. But, I accept people want to leave, and if it all goes wrong, fine. That's the reality. I ain't there. These people, the ones who leave are maybe the ones who lose their jobs. But, that's their decision. They live with this. It's not for anyone else, not for smug gits to go, oh, well, you're too stupid. They're educated enough. Anyway, it's just, it's always amused me how the middle class presume the working class all want socialism. And this is why it amuses me, this George Galloway part, because I bet, and I'm going to keep going on it, and if you get a chance, folks, just go on the Twitter feed, because I bet, by bottom dollar, you won't see anyone working class in this party. I suspect it's all middle class people. I mean, some they do, they pretend they're working class. They'll tell you that they go to the football, or how the granddad was a working class miner, because that's what they always try and connect, even though they're middle class. They'll be sat in their nice middle class house in London that's worth 4 million, but they're working class men. It's ridiculous. By the way, if you go to Newcastle or anywhere like that, it's a middle class area. It has been for quite a while. I don't see anyone working class in Newcastle. I've gone. Even Liverpool's fairly middle class now. You go around, it's most cosmopolitan place. It wasn't that long ago. It seems to have changed round. But, you go around a lot of these places, and you might go, oh, the North's all working class. It's not. It's very middle class. It really is. Even council estates are fairly middle class these days. You might get the odd spots that aren't. And yes, that's true, but people are technically middle class. Anyway, that's my little rant, but I'll guarantee it. I'll promise you that. Those who are always wanting socialism, I've always noticed the middle class. And that's the thing. And this is why I think Labour, they just didn't get it. Even today, they're talking about helping the poor and stuff and helping these stupid, thicky, working class people. And they just don't get it. They just think that this is what working class people want. And they don't. They're all stunned. You can see them stunned. They don't understand it. Because as far as they're concerned, the working class all want socialism, and they don't. That's the full end of it. Anyway, that's me done for this.